Hello there, I'm Stephen with Beyond Education Consulting. Here as the Director of Education, we get a lot of very frequently asked questions about test preparation for exams such as the SAT and ACT. And today we're going to go ahead and answer one of the most frequently asked questions: when is a good time to take one of these exams? Let's go ahead and dive right on in. So what I typically recommend to students and families is to take one of these exams before, during, or even after your junior year of high school. While this academic year is typically the busiest for students, this is when they're also most ready to tackle one of these exams. Let's consider some of the opportunities for the SAT. The prime months for the SAT in terms of a before or after scenario would be the August exam. This exam lands in a student's summer. Whether they're a rising junior or a rising senior, they're typically going to have a little bit more time without the obligations of school to prepare for this exam. If we're looking at a sort of during scenario, then I typically recommend considering the December and March SATs. These are by far some of the most popular test dates that we see students and families targeting, because as we're figuring out things in the first semester and then tackling a December exam, or we're sort of getting through the second semester and then tackling a March, usually they have kind of a nice synergy between them, or they just kind of fit neatly into what a student has going on in their lives, academically speaking, at that time. Other months, of course, include May, June, October, and November. Those are just the normal official test dates of the SAT. But again, my go-tos would be August, December, or March. For the ACT, we typically recommend, for a before or after situation, the September ACT, which of course lands very nearly like the August SAT does. So for similar reasons, it can be helpful for students to have summer to prepare for that test. If we're considering a during option, then we actually have three choices of December, February, or April. Again, these exams land very neatly in most students' sort of academic progress, if you will, during their junior years. But of course, we also have other months like October, June, and July. Now, that's sort of the big, broad answer to the question, when should my student be taking the SAT or ACT? But let's also consider some exceptions or caveats we want to include in this conversation. First and foremost, we have to consider math readiness. Both exams have require students to consider Algebra 2 content as their highest level of math. If your student has not completed Algebra 2, or if Algebra 2 is something they took a long time ago at this time, for example, with our more advanced students, then that could cause some considerations that need to be made. If you're thinking of having an extremely busy junior year, such as with AP exams, well, that can really drain a student's energy and just otherwise tax them in ways that maybe we want to go ahead and consider working around junior year, either before or after. Sometimes the during does not work out so well. I should also go ahead and mention that with AP exams, we have the month of May as a very, very important month for us. That's when AP exams actually land. And so for students considering the months of April, March, or February for any of their test taking, well, keep in mind you're going to want to be preparing for your AP tests sooner rather than later during those months. And then, of course, we want to consider room for preparation. We generally recommend 8 to 12 weeks as sort of a window for test prep, but that also depends on what our initial score is with any of these exams, and of course, what our final goal score should be. And then lastly, we want to recommend room for a second attempt. Many students and families think about taking the SAT or ACT only once, but it's actually more common to take it twice and sometimes even 3 times. So we don't want to go ahead and leave the SAT or ACT too late, because then we really kind of run out of opportunities to do our absolute best with these tests. So that's our answer for when should my student be taking the SAT or ACT. For all things in terms of academic or test prep support, please reach out to us here at Beyond Education Consulting. Thanks so much for your time.